Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast. The Third Degree Net Podcast.
Third Degree the Podcast is brought to you by Soccer90.com, your ultimate destination for FC Dallas North Texas Soccer Club and European gear. Make sure and check out the end of season North Texas sale. 50% off all that sweet second team gear, more unique. People are going to ask you about it. It's good looking stuff. Third Degree listeners get 20% off your order when you use the code Third Degree at checkout. Some exclusions do apply.
Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fan. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. This one is episode number 230. Isn't that a reference to something, 230? Is that the room number from The Shining?
No, that's
a
237.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing? It's me, Peter, and of course, that is your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net, and the original Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Hello, Peter. How are you on this glorious 2-point week?
I'm okay, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny, I mentioned The Shining because my wife is in Denver, and she's staying at a hotel where every floor is themed, and the 13th floor is themed after The Shining. And at the I can't believe they did this. At the end of the hall, they have the two creepy twin girls, life size, painted on the wall at the end of the hallway, and in big letters above them it says Red Rum.
Well, the hotel that allegedly inspired that book is in Estes Park, Colorado. So that's not, yeah.
So at like the floor that my wife is on, the theme is Friends.
She got the Friends and not The Shining.
No.
Yeah.
So when she told me about the Shining floor, I asked her if they had installed the Shining carpet from the hotel.
Oh.
And she didn't know what that was, so I had to send her a picture, and lo and behold, it turns out they did not copy the carpet. But why would you stay on a floor with those twin girls at the end of the hall? It's so weird.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, people go to haunted houses too. I don't know.
Yeah, but do you want to sleep on that floor?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Well, here we are, Buzz. We are actually recording literally just minutes after Dallas pulled off a miraculous road tie 1-1 in Philly. Philly, a really good team in general, but really good at home. Dallas getting a point on the road, which is a big deal. And it's funny how we feel about draws. On the road, they're fantastic. At home, they're absolutely painful. And we can start with what happened. The same result on Saturday against another Eastern Conference team in Columbus. But man, I just, like I was saying to you before we started recording, I was having a hard time remembering anything about that game, Buzz, because it's just another. I find this team can be so boring to watch.
Yeah, I joked, I can't remember when it was, maybe a month ago, or maybe more now, frankly, that this team plays like it's a mid-table Spanish team, and it really is true. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Home of the road, when they run into a team that is better, certainly offensively better, and has more talented and more goal-scoring upside, it doesn't matter whether it's home or road. They play this way. They play this mid to low block. If you go back to the Philly game, there's a very clear, the Columbus game. It was a very clear, 4-2-4 kind of look where they ran this line across just above midfield. So it made it very difficult for their back four to get out, and then that, of course, abandoned the two guys alone in their own midfield. But then they had another line with the defense. So they clearly were setting up in a way to try and diffuse that Columbus offense. And it was, for the most part, pretty effective. When you're talking about a team that has 60 goals on the year, literally twice as many as Dallas does, or more, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a team that plays like this quite frequently. They did it again in Philly, and it allows them to stay in games against teams that score more goals than them. They're in every game, and if you want to make a case for how do you win playoff games if you don't have $15 million superstars, maybe that's it. Maybe you try and keep games really close. At least that's what I can come up with for why you'd want to play this way all the time. But it's what they do. This is their bread and butter. And we've seen it over and over and over again all the time, that they don't care about having the ball. They want to play tough defense, and then they want to counter in transition, and that's how they play.
I got a direct message from one of the curious the other day after last week's episode that appeared. I'm inferring this. I don't know if this is actually correct, but they seemed annoyed, if not mad at me, for referring to this team as boring. And I want to make sure that everybody understands. I know why they're boring. I get it. I feel like, to Buzz's point, this is they are a mid-table Spanish team, and this is how those teams play because points are the objective, and this is being practical and pragmatic and trying to figure out the best strategy. And I get that part. I think the reason why I'm frustrated by it is because this team, in my head, was not boring last year. They were fun to watch, and they're not fun to watch this year. By and large, they have moments, but I understand why they're doing it. And I also have never been a fan, Buzz, of a manager. I've always wanted my club to be the club that dictates how a game is going to be played.
Yeah.
Especially on your own home ground. So when Columbus comes to town and says, hey, Nico, we're going to play this way. You figure out what you want to do. That bothers me, and I think that's really my whole point about this. And then the whole subsequent conversation about how long can a team be boring before you start to run into attendance issues because people don't want to watch boring soccer week in and week out and pay to watch it. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, a lot of it is. They definitely have done this sort of defensive mentality more at home this year for sure than they did last year.
Yes.
What's interesting is that this year, one of the things they've incorporated is more use of different formations and this ability to change shapes, often flexing in and out of shapes based on whether they're on offense or defense. This is a very modern style. It's what Greg Berhalter tries to do with the national team. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The problem is that it takes practice and it takes understanding to do it. And so he didn't do that nearly as much last year as he did this year. Last year, we saw them from every once in a while try the three at the back. But basically, they were in that default single pivot 4-3-3, 99% of the time, it seems like. Well, this year, we've seen 4-4-2s. We've seen single pivot 4-3-3s. We've seen a double 4-3-3, which is basically some version of a 4-4-2 in a lot of different ways, but that's a different conversation. We've seen 3-4-3. Today we saw what looked like a 3-5-2. And I'm with you. I prefer a team, and I think Oscar did it this way, where we're good. We're going to play the way we want to play, and you're going to adjust to us.
Yeah.
And this team doesn't do that. This team adjusts micromanagement-wise to every team they play. They adjust to every tactical difference all the time. They don't ever dictate anything. They always have, or not always, I shouldn't say always because it's not always. But it's 60, 70, 80% of the time, they want to do this mid to low block and not care much about the ball and then transition back. But how they do that even changes from game to game. And so part of what I think, in your eyes, I think makes them boring is the fact that they don't try and dictate the games. They just react to games. Mm-hmm. And that can often make you sit in the stands and go, I'm just waiting for something to happen.
Well,
like, oh my gosh. And then, of course, they do occasionally get stuff going, and counterattacking is fun when they get going. It's exciting when they get going, but there's far too many games for me where this team is passive. I'm willing to watch a defensive team play if you're actively defensive and not passively defensive and just sit there. So that's what I don't like about the way this team currently plays. But at the end of the game, if you make the playoffs, it's like, what, isn't that the job? So...
I mean, more teams make the playoff than not now, Buzz. So that to me is not an achievement. I'm just not impressed if you're the 9th or 8th plus. I'm not even impressed if unless you're top 4. To me, it's just not an achievement. I mean, I'm sure everybody counts it that way, but I guess the one thing I was thinking about as I was watching tonight's game, do you feel like this team is better than last year's team?
I think it's pretty much the same. And probably,
really? I'm surprised you think it's this. I think it's better defensively, but I don't think it's a better team.
Well, that's probably fair. Part of the problem is that the injuries were so bad for a big chunk of the season. It really has kind of taken the steam out of this team. It's hard to judge because they were in 4th until all that came, and then they were in 10th when they came out of it, and that's brutal.
Yeah,
I 100% agree. The offense is worse this year. I think there's no question. But the defense, I think, is actually better. And Illarramendi has made this team better in so many ways, even over just the last month. And
right.
and watching Velasco grow and wake up is really, really nice. Granted, the as we talked last week, the falling off of Leggett and Areola is a big concern. And I think that's the thing that really has made this team not enjoyable, because Obrian is giving you what he gives you every year, which is like this very inconsistent explosions of like 3 or 4 good games and then 4 or 5 terrible games. He's doing it exactly again. Ansa's not really providing anything coming in. We like the look of Bernie, but you only like the look of Bernie for like 30% of any given game. The other 70% makes my head hurt. But he has such a knack for making a big moment happen and taking advantage of it. He can be real exciting for that when that stuff happens. So I don't think the team's injuries aside, I think the team's about the same as it is last year. Frankly, I don't think it's much different.
All right.
That injuries were just
no. I know. That's probably the fairest way of reviewing it. Is the team is probably about the same, but the injuries have taken a huge chunk out of this season, and we'll see if they're ever able to salvage it.
And to be fair, last year they probably punched above their weight because they didn't have any injuries, and they were one of the few teams that was almost unscathed the whole year. So they probably had a point advantage because of that. So to me, it's basically. You remember when this coach came in, and the first thing he talked about right out of the gate was it's going to take time. There's going to be a process. And so we're just in year 2 of this thing. And for me, watching them make decisions about personnel is more like an alteration of style and emphasis. And the team's not any better or worse. It's just evolving in some way. And we'll find out over the next season or 2 if it's actually going to be any good or not. I don't know that I know what the answer to that question is yet.
Yeah. Anything? I don't. We could talk more about the Crew game. There's nothing in particular that stood out to me about that, unless there's something I'm forgetting that we should talk about.
Obrian was good again. There was the bit in the middle where he was good.
He was good, yeah. but not before he. Okay. There's one thing I do remember. I remember wanting to throw something at the television because there were 2 very memorable moments of Obrian just getting in the way, making the wrong run, not finishing not finishing an opportunity or making the right pass, and then of course he goes on and scored a goal and played better. But he's obviously hit or miss.
He's still Obrian.
Yes. Yes.
The other thing to talk about is the weird shift to a 3-4-3 for about 10 minutes until Martinez got his 70-minute knock that he does and then had to go out. I don't know why we keep seeing the 3-4-3. It has really not worked in any form or fashion, in my opinion, this year. After
watching that game and watching I don't know, I'm sure we're going to talk about the shape and tactics of the Philly game tonight. Yeah. The reason why I enjoy it is because I know it makes your soccer pants go crazy.
Well, which one? The formation or
just the fact that this team doesn't just do a 4-4-2 and just stay with it all season long. It's like, what are we going to do tonight? What kind of, it's like a teenager trying to decide what they want to wear to go to school the next day. They just kind of do whatever they want to do when they do it.
Yeah, usually a Dallas team, when the game starts, I know what the formation is going to be. And it takes me about 10 seconds to just glance around the field and go, yep, everyone's where I expected them to be, or, oh, there's the change. But this version of this team, every game, no matter what they draw up on the lineup card they put out, I have to spend 10 minutes like, okay, who's out there? Where are they playing? Is the formation what it's supposed to be, or is some knucklehead running somewhere he's not supposed to be? And so what is it really supposed to be, and what is it actually, are often different. So I spend 10 minutes staring at the thing, trying to figure out what in the world they're doing, because they change it every game and they alter it every game and the plan is different every game. And so in a way, I get a certain amount of enjoyment from that process. It can be distracting. I can't just watch what's happening because I'm trying to figure out what in the world they're doing. But,
plus it's hard to eat your nachos.
It's hard to eat your nachos. Yeah, I'm a big nacho guy. I get my Coke 0 and I'm good. It's just, Look, until you're just outright better than most people, it can be hard. And this is why, we joke, and we're circling back, but we joke about the idea that, like, it's the mid-table team, right? He's coaching for micro minutia advantage so he can grind out a few points and finish in the top half of the table, basically, is what he's doing. That's how he's coaching, and right or wrong, at least that's what it looks like to me. I'm sure if you ask him, he'd probably tell you like, no, we're trying to win every game and things like that. And sometimes I find answers like that disingenuous. I'm like, man, you're trying to win every game. Why did you do X, Y, and Z? It's like, you're not necessarily trying to win every game. Like when you go into Philly and you rotate half your 80% of your team, you can't then tell me with a straight face we're trying to win that game. No, you were trying to survive in Philly. You can't, sure,
right.
Okay, we're trying to win. No, I'm sort of. You're trying to get through that game without it going south and getting beat 5-0 is what you're doing. And it worked, and they were in it, but it's like, I find that a disingenuous statement saying we try to win every game. It's like, come on, no, you don't. Not everybody tries to win every single game. It's not unless you're LAFC.
Well, Philly had to rotate a few tonight as well. They weren't at full max.
Yeah.
But getting it's not winning the game against the Crew that hurts.
Yeah, at home.
At home, yes, because that's a home game. You don't have a lot of home games left. I know the Crew are very, very good, but if you're really stretching to try to make the playoffs, those 3 points would have been, gone a long way towards securing your place in the playoffs. But I look at it this way, Buzz.
Yeah.
You didn't get the 3 points against the Crew, but you did get a point tonight in Philly. So you ended up with 2 points instead of 3, which is pretty close to what you kind of hoped you'd get out of these 2 games, and maybe and then we'll see what happens when they go down to Houston on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Crew game is that, like, on paper, you look and like their goal was an own goal. I mean, how many chances were they really creating or whatever? But you're like, man, they had 13 shots. And Maarten Paes had an amazing game again. It's like, they easily could have been down 3 in the first half if it hadn't been for Maarten Paes. So while you look at some of these numbers and you think, oh, look, Dallas did a really nice job against the Crew at home. They withheld them. They tied a game, really a high-powered offensive team. But, you have to remember the context of how it went. It's like they were mostly bypassing the middle and going wide because, again, that 4-2-4 thing, the wide midfield was wide open, and they were getting all these things in there and making all these opportunities. Dallas kept them out. I'll give them that. But, that's the thing is, like, even particularly at home, regardless of that you got a point, you feel like you should win games at home. Crew are terrible on the road. So that game felt like to me an over adjustment. Like you overthought that one. And like, we got to play like it's a road game. This is a really powerful offense, man. The Crew stink on the road. You ought to be able to beat them in your home, just playing the way you play. And that's what bothered me about that game was that part of it.
Well, so 1-1 against the Crew. Then tonight in Philly, Nico does a complete rotate, not complete, but pretty much a complete rotation.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple things that were slightly weird. Is like I fiddled around with the idea of this 4-4-2 that they put out on paper, except that they didn't do that last year when they beat Philly here. They played a 4-3-3. So I kind of shied away from that at the very end. The reason I considered it was to get Jimenez on the field, but Jimenez has been so bad. I thought, no, man, I talked myself out of it. Well, sure enough, they did that. And that basically that formation happened, and Jimenez happened just so he could take Jesus out of a game. Velasco coming back from injury, I expected him to go because you want to try and build his minute load. But then Pomykal rotated in for Illarramendi. That was obvious. Facundo was back in. I expected Facundo to be back in because he had a midweek game on last week, but they actually went with Frazier, which I was surprised by because that kind of meant the whole, like almost everything was rotating. I did think Dante Sealer would start. I thought Obrian would start because you're going to have Bernie back soon. The one that caught me off guard, Junka, I knew was going to start left back, or I assumed would start left back, was that it should have been back to Martinez Ibiaga. But it must have been that Martinez was not feeling it after that late game knock he had because they stuck with Tafari. Either that or coach listened to the podcast and listened to us say Tafari should start every game no matter what. I doubt that's what happened. That's not what happened. It must be Martinez's knock was worse than I thought it was because it should have been, if you follow the 3-player rotation at center back, it should have been Ibiaga Martinez, and it wasn't. So that's the one that actually caught me off guard was that Tafari was in there.
Well, I'm glad he didn't because Tafari had to chase and clear out balls multiple times.
No, he was a monster
in transition.
Yeah.
That there's no way Martinez or Ibiaga Ibiaga, thank you, get to either one in any of those opportunities because those guys just are a little older and not as fast. Tafari has got the speed.
Yeah, I mean, Uri and Sullivan are both pretty good. So it's not in the end. Maybe it was just a guy Tafari, But then the rotation was off, and whatever. I'm okay with Tafari every game. I mean, with 4 games left right after this, so he should start the rest of them.
Yeah, so I was, I think like everybody else saw the lineup and went, well, okay, this is going to be a long night. But I thought by and large the team played really, really well, and going down 1-0 was a real bummer. It was a weird defensive setup for a corner kick, by the way. And so it was that tied with some really poor defending on Dante's part in the at the very last moment of it. But that was really the only real chance I thought Philly had to that point. I thought Dallas was playing really well.
Yeah, that was a game where, without looking at it, I believe Dallas had the better of the XG, if you like that stat. Yeah, they did. No, they didn't. Oh, I thought they would have. I think it's a terrible stat, but for the most part, I think that Dallas had its fair amount of chances. The first half was really weird in terms of the shape. It's like I was like, is Dante Seeley playing wing back? He was acting like he was playing wing back. Certainly the average position made it look like he was playing wing back. I don't think he was supposed to be a wing back. I think he's supposed to be a wing like Obrian. It's just that Velasco was running away from No Bueno in the middle there and ended up more on the wings than he did like right underneath Jimenez. Part of that's because Jimenez never moves, so Velasco has to do all the moving, and Seeley ended up going back and back and back and back and all. And I think it was not supposed to be that way because Obrian was staying really high and not coming back at all. And Dante was playing so far back, the formation was like at a tilt, like way off to the side. And they changed it in the second half, and Dante quit doing that. So I assume they must have adjusted him and gotten it fixed because it was most of the wonkiest formation I've ever seen. If you look at it, Jimenez looks like he's Carlos Valderrama standing in midfield. And it's true for the whole game. His number 9 is pegged right there at the central midfield.
He's going to go down as the most forgettable number 9 in this club's history.
Yeah, I mean, him or Jetterson, it's got to be close.
He's the guy that I'm pretty sure. The only reason why I remember Jetterson is because of the funny last name.
Yeah.
But this guy is a guy in 3 years we're going to go, who is that guy that we traded for and didn't do jack crap? Yeah. I mean, he looks so disinterested and so zero effort. And, a few minutes into the game, he has a ball at midfield, and he flubs a simple, basic soccer 101 2-yard pass backwards to somebody and gives it right to Philly. And he doesn't even, he jogs. He never makes an ounce of effort to try to win the ball back. And when I see that, I am absolutely out on a dude.
Yeah, he's right up there with Escobar in terms of forgettability. Escobar, I only remember because he wore 91, which is a stupid number. The one I remember from Jimenez is late in the game, right before he subbed out for him. There was a ball that came out of the back, and he tried to chase it, and then he did that bit that you do when you're slow as dirt and you want to make it look like you're running as hard as you can. That over exaggeration of, oh, look at me, I'm running hard, kind of. And I was like, oh my God, he's so slow.
Well, I mean, look, he makes no effort to win balls when he's got pressure in the box. There were so many times people would try to play him a ball into the box, not many times, but on the few opportunities they got to do that, he was just getting pushed off the ball, and I just screw that guy. He's just a waste of time.
It's bad.
It's not good. And
the only value he brought tonight was that Jesus Ferreira got to spend 60 minutes on the bench. That was the best part of it.
I would have rather them have called up a kid from North Texas.
You can't. The roster's frozen.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, you could have started Ansa. That would have been better, honestly. I mean, the guy's a 9/wing. Just play him. I mean, I know it's not great, but it can't be worse than what Jimenez is doing. The thing is that Jimenez is getting paid a lot of money.
Stealing money is what
and
he's doing.
You know that there's going to be a call like, hey, why is Jimenez not playing? We're paying him $1.5 million or whatever the hell he's getting. It's not. So sometimes I hate it, but sometimes that actually happens. And honestly, as valueless as he was, just play Ansa instead. The only thing that you needed him for was to get through 60 minutes of the game, with some defensive pressure, and you can't even do that. You might as well let somebody else, or just put Obrian at the 9. Let Obrian chase people. That's fine. Then you had to start Paul, I guess. I guess if Bernie would have been healthy, maybe it would have been different. I bet you it would have been.
Yeah, probably. All right, I want to talk about something good, which was a funny exchange initiated by me with you on our little group chat.
Uh-oh.
Because there was a moment in the game where Emma Tuamase wins a ball and races into Philly's half of the field, outpaces his mark, and plays a perfect ball at the top of the box to Alan Velasco, who kind of just half swipes at it and plays it, and it just shoots it right at Philly's keeper. And I sent you a note and said, man, Velasco, if you want, he's got to score that goal, because that's the difference between him and the next level Argentinian player or whatever, the next level quality player, attacking player in this league scores that goal every time. And Allen didn't do it. And then sure enough, 10 seconds after I send that, the ball bounces right back to Allen and he hits that fartin' worldie. What a banger that was. What a great goal. And that is exactly the kind of goal that kid needs to be scoring for this team.
Yeah, between your message and me reading it, and then before I can even start typing, Alan blasted that thing in. And I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Ima Tuamase, best game in a while from him. He was
yes.
good today. Yeah.
Really I fully agree with you on that. Yeah. See, look, Alan does a lot of – there's been so many good things that I've seen out of Alan this season that is such a silver lining to for all the dark periods, which is he's played harder. They've been able to play him more centrally and kind of solve some of that problems. Another thing that I've started to see out of him is recovery, like coming, like really working super hard to come back when the ball's turned over, and not just quitting at the top of the field, but making an effort to come back, like Paxton Pomykal kind of recovery runs, which I really, really love seeing out of the kid. But the one thing he's just got to start doing is start banging goals in. So that was great to see out of him tonight. I loved it.
Yeah, I think with Allen, we have to, I'm not going to say be patient, but understand that there's a pathway here, and that there's going to be, it's not going to go from 0 to Messi overnight. Every year is going to be a progression. And so this year, to see him make that, last year was about the defensive progression. This year it's about the progression of being able to step into the middle and play surrounded by people, and the next step will be game influence. And like, okay, now we know that you're good. You have to be able to do it and deliver it consistently. And two, when people are focusing on you is the next step. People are now going to have eyes on him, and today was a good example of No Bueno in the middle, who was just chasing him everywhere and kicking him everywhere. And Allen's going to have to learn how to play referees a little bit better than he does. He's trying to do it, but he's not good at it yet. So it's all getting taken as flopping, where you're going to have to be able to sell that a little better. But, nonetheless, like the next level for Allen is not ability, it's mind, it's mental. He's in the same place Paxton is, frankly, where the difference for Paxton is, other than you can't play every game because your body breaks down, it's mental. Those guys need to look at what Illarramendi does and take now a different position than Velasco, but nonetheless, it's the mental side of the game. It's the reading of the game. It's the awareness. It's the touch. It's moving into space. All those things. And to watch the awakening of Alan Velasco is so exciting. Like every game, it's a joy to watch that guy learn something, because you can clearly see it happening in real time. It's spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did get a lot of enjoyment out of Philly tonight. How somehow Alan Velasco turned into the villain that they wanted to boo. Like fun. That's such a weird thing. Like there's a lot of other guys out there for Dallas that I think you'd boo way before you booed Velasco, but whatever. By the way, I also want to compliment Philly, because this is for the city that once booed and threw batteries at Santa Claus. I guess I should be relieved that they are openly rooting against children's cancer. I'm relieved to see that they were up for the collective league battle against children's cancer. That's a relief. I was worried we'd see them rooting for children's cancer.
It's an improvement. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Look, they have a great side. I love watching Gazdag play. That guy is so good. He's another guy that Allen can learn things from. He's not nearly as nifty on the ball as Allen is, but he reads the game so well, and his influence is just remarkable. You can learn from that guy.
Paxton had a really good game tonight.
Great game, yeah.
But I did enjoy, because I know I bet he's gonna spend the entire flight home thinking about this moment, him biting on the move, Gazdag put on him late in the game.
Yeah.
And then got beat down the line. Paxton's gonna be chewing on that one for a while, but that was a sweet move on Gazdag's part.
It's a chance to grow. Listen, I thought that was one of Paxton's best performances of the year.
Yes,
maybe not his
agree.
best because he had a really, really good one, like a month ago too. But it's nice to see. It's not just like, hey, great, I love seeing Paxton wake back up. And the most important improvement was these dribble drives into the gaps, right? Like top
Ball
of the
progression,
box.
yeah.
Ball progression. Phenomenal. I'm hoping he's picking up some of that from Illarramendi. Some recognition both by the club and hopefully by him that you cannot run him game after game after game, that he's going to have to take games off because he's Paxton, okay? That's not a big deal. In a modern squad, we already have a glut of guys there because you got Illarramendi. When Legette's healthy, he's going to have to factor. You're not going to start 34 games. He's not, particularly Paxton's not. But you see the performances you get when you manage that a little bit, when you have these games off for him, the games you do get him, he's fantastic. And he's awakening and making these penetrations. Maybe it's because you're lining him up slightly deeper, this deep 8 position, which he played a little more of in the academy anyway, so it's a little more familiar for him to drive from that position. When you play him as that high pure 10, like when he has to fill that Velasco role, I think he gets caught so tight to the defense that he doesn't have time to find the gaps and read it like he does when he comes from deep. Maybe that's the difference for him too, because the improvement the last month from him has been really lovely to see. Because we were worried for a while there that we were like, man, we're gonna have to just.
Yes. I don't know how much we communicated it on the podcast, but I think you and I had several conversations. We're like, is Paxton done? Like, is he forever broken? Because whatever's going on with Paxton does not look like him, and that was really scary. And now he looks like Paxton again.
Yeah, so much so that one of the national writers messaged me about how excited they were to see it, and I was like,
oh.
So again, Dallas was on a little bit of a pedestal because they were on the early game against Philly. So like all the East Coast guys are awake and watching.
That's really cool. Lexi Wallace sent you a message.
Not Wallace. That guy would not remember me.
It's really cool. Gab Marcotti sent you a note.
Yeah. It was Shep Messing. That's who it
was. Shep Messing. Grant Wall sent you a note from the great beyond.
I did a seance with Grant. Yeah.
Maarten Paes totally 100% deserves having a supermodel as a girlfriend. I just want to say I've declared that to be fair in the world.
He's having an amazing season with an amazing goals against. This is one of the best seasons for a keeper we've seen in this club history. I guarantee you he won't be up for goalkeeper of the year because he plays for Dallas. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is stupid. That save he made. It was the shot from the top of the box. It was deflected off a defender. I have no idea how he saw that ball, much less saved it.
There was a play where the ball went over the top and he went up, he jumped like he was going to block it, and then he realized it was going over, so he brought his hands down. It was like he just floated in the air for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
My wife was like, is he levitating and just sort of floating there? That's what it looked like.
Yeah, there was a whole group of people standing behind that goal that had to pick up their eyeballs off the ground and wash them off before they put them back in their head, because they had to have had the falling out of their heads watching him make that save. They would have put Philly up 2-1 at that point. What a save. Oh my God, that's a world-class save.
Yeah, he continues to make the big, massive save, 1, 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 of them that you need in order to keep the games close. If they didn't have him, and listen, I like Jimmy Maurer, and there's been some times where Jimmy Maurer's been very good for this club. But if they only had Jimmy Maurer, this team would be buried at the bottom of the standings.
Absolutely.
Paz is single-handedly keeping them in the playoff race.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that have improved about the defense overall, but he is the catalyst for the improvement of their defensive record between last season to this season, no doubt about it.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons, when you go back to Lucci ball, like if Lucci would have had Paes the season he got fired, Lucci wouldn't have gotten fired. Because he had Jimmy. The Jimmy the year before was great, and then that last year, Jimmy lost something and took a step back, and the defense was not nearly as good, and Lucci got fired. If he would have had Paes, that defense would have held together, and Lucci wouldn't have gotten fired. That's how good this guy is. This is saving people's jobs.
So, Buzz, I'm going to ask you the question.
Yeah.
Should Dallas have won this game 2-1 with the Areola goal.
No, that's listen. The handball rule is so dumb and so confusing, and I really wish we were back at the previous version of it. Not because of this game, but the one thing I can tell you about this game is that if the ball touches the arm of a person, no matter whether it's deemed a handball or not, that guy can't then kick the ball into the goal. That's part of the rule.
I'm holding a gun to your wife's head. Seriously, listen to me. I'm holding a gun to your wife's head. You are now going to swear to me you saw the ball touch. You 100% sure, without question, you saw the ball touch Areola's arm.
Yeah, 100%.
I am one. I could not say that because when they showed the camera angle from behind the goal, looking at Areola from the front, I could make the argument the ball looks like it goes behind his arm and hits off his side. And the freeze framing of the angle from behind is so blurry, I don't know how anybody could swear on a Bible that it touches his arm and not his side. And again, this is where I get into the whole Zaprudering of VAR. Because when I saw it in real time, I thought, did that hit his arm? And then they were all celebrating and everything, and I went, okay, I guess it didn't. And then, 15 minutes goes by, and they're like, oh, maybe it did hit his arm. Let's go back and look at it really closely.
Yeah, well, that's a different discussion. The over-Zaprudering of VAR is different than, just based on the clips they showed, I was 100% convinced it was a handball. The minute they showed all those replays, I was like, oh, that's no goal.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't like it. But
I know. Yeah, I didn't see anything that I did not think it definitively showed that it absolutely touched his arm. I saw that it came off somewhere around his arm, and if it did touch his arm, did it touch it above the cuff of the sleeve or below the cuff of the sleeve? Because that's the cutoff line now officially with FIFA, by the way.
Well, I couldn't tell you that. I mean, this whole you can't score after it touches your arm crap to me is ridiculous because that part of the rule is asinine. I can understand the idea of natural position. That part is a conversation I'm happy to have. This whole you then can't be the guy that scores. Well, why not? Who cares? It's like the ball's in play or it's not, right? I mean, it's like
I don't know, man.
It's such a stupid part. Let's not beat it to death. But.
No, and just so everybody understands, I'm fine with them calling it that way. I'm just trying to make a point that I'm not sold that you can 100% definitively say it touched his arm.
Yeah.
I'm just not convinced of that.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I had no, instantly.
Well,
I
you're
was
an idiot.
I work in TV, so, maybe I'm used to looking at video like that.
Yeah,
more
maybe.
often than not.
All right, you're smarter than me.
Well, it's not that. It's that I literally do sports where I'm feeding those kinds of replays to officials. I know what I'm looking at.
Thanks for big timing me, Buzz.
Yeah. Just like I don't tell you about radio.
All right. So Dallas ends up with the 1-1 draw at Philadelphia. What else did I want to talk about the Philly game? I did want to say this because I kind of bagged on him last week. I thought Frazier was better today. And I actually noticed, well, maybe it's because I noticed him today.
Oh, I noticed him because he was friggin' horrible.
Really? I didn't think he was horrible.
I thought he was straight garbage. He had one really good game like the last time he played.
No, hold on. What was straight garbage about him tonight? I'm not saying he was Illarramendi or Facu or anybody else. I at least noticed him, and I don't remember him making critically poor errors.
Oh, yeah. 10 seconds into the game, he just handed the ball to a guy that almost scored.
Well, maybe I didn't see the first 10 seconds of the game.
Downhill from there. It was awful. Yeah, that's terrible.
What was his passing percentage tonight?
Let's look real quick. Frazier, 86%.
That's pretty good for a midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay.
I'm not saying he was world class, or I would have given him more than a 6.5 out of 10. But
Pomykal was 92%.
Okay, well, he wasn't Pomykal.
Yeah, Jimenez was 90%. I just thought he was really poor.
Why did they trade Cerrillo again?
Because his contract was expiring at the end of this season, and LA Galaxy offered an obscene amount of money for him.
Okay,
and they had made Edmund an offer, and he was
choosing.
He had been declining it, and you can't let a guy get away for free. Okay. And just the business of soccer. Yeah,
then that's a good smart move on their part.
Yeah,
okay.
That was it. It's just money.
I noticed Frazier tonight, and I didn't think he was horrible. But again, I will defer to the expert, Buzz Carrick. You said he
Edwin is much
straight
better
garbage.
player. Yeah.
Oh, I don't. That's why I asked the question. I want to make sure I know the story behind that.
I will give Frazier credit. The previous game he played, he was actually pretty good. But this game was back to the, oh my God, get him out of there fast, please.
Dante Seeley.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with Dante. He doesn't appear to be able to receive a ball with his back to goal or with somebody on him very well. Like, that's a real problem.
Yeah, he wants to run at people, period. Yeah. So, in the before he left here and went to PSV, I mostly saw him play in the academy more than I did for the first team club. And he was all the time, he would come out to almost like a wide midfield position and pick up the ball and just run at people relentlessly from that high angle position. And you can see that he wants to do that. He sets up out on the touchline, like 10, 15 yards off the defense. And he wants to get the ball there in space so that he can set up and go at people. But it's not all that effective yet in this league. Defenders in this league are much better than what he's been facing. Remember, he wasn't at PSV. He was at PSV Zhong. That's a big difference in those two things.
Right.
So he did it all the time at North Texas too when he was here. It was effective. But, you're talking about MLS where guys are actually fast. You can't just run past them like you could before. So, look, he's a player with some potential still, but he has a whole lot to learn about how to play in tactics still. And he has a whole lot to learn about how to be effective at this level. And it's a shame because he's already starting to get up there. I mean, he's like, what is he, like 22 now? He's not a kid anymore. So I think there's some value there still. And he is making teams and getting in these games, which means that the coaches see something in him. But it's about 80% of the game. It's not very effective. He is putting in effort. He is running from end to end on the field, which, okay, I'll give you credit for that. But he's often out of position, I think, and doesn't really know how to defend very well. And we saw a lot of that in the first half when he gets back there, which, hey, great effort. But then you got to defend 100%. You can't defend like 80%. And guys just run past you.
Can't just stick your foot out.
Yeah, you got to actually defend if you're going to be back there. Otherwise, just get out of the way. So look, it's a project at best. If Bernie was healthy, would he even be playing? He'd be behind O'Brien and maybe, well, not Ansa, obviously, because he played over Ansa. But I think there's some things there worth still exploring. But, the clock's ticking when you're getting to be 22, 23 years old. I should look up exactly what he is since I'm saying that.
Yeah, and we probably, to be honest, it is a bad look for Zanata that Seeley's getting a start over Ansa at this point.
All right, he's 20. Let's be fair. I should give full credit. He's only 20.
Okay. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
You were looking that up?
It's an indictment of Zanata that he's starting over Ansa, and I agree completely.
I mean, look, I got to give Zanata credit for Illara, but I'm bringing that guy in because he's amazing. But Ansa's a player that they need production out of, and they're getting, they've gotten not much more out of him than they've gotten out of Jimenez. And the fact that this 20-year-old kid who's just, okay, is starting over him is not a good look.
Yeah. Bernie was starting over him too, you know, and that's not the best I'm hoping for at this point is this is going to be one of those 6-month foreign things where it's just he's only been here and he's from Ghana and playing in Israel, and it's like he's not used to this or that and has no family's not here. I don't know. I'm just guessing, that 6 months from now, or probably at 4 months from now at this point, like next spring, maybe we'll be like, man, I can't believe we ever doubted. That's what I'm hoping. Because right now it's not worth squat, and that's a shame.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else's performances from the Crew or the Philly game that we need to discuss. Junko was pretty quiet, solid, not, let's see, Sebastian Ibiaga was fine, yeah.
Tafari was great.
Yeah,
Paxton was great.
Yeah, Paxton was great. Yeah, overall, I'm not, like I said, I'm not excited about the draw against the Crew at home, but I'm delighted over the moon that you went to Philly and got a point. Now, there are a lot of teams that aren't going to do that this year, so I think that's full credit to them.
Yeah.
And this all leads up to the big game against Houston, who, by the way, did end up winning Open Cup tonight. in Miami. I think the final was 2-0. Neither Messi or Jordi Alba were even on the bench. Both those players sat out the game. Busquets did play, but Houston is now your U.S. Open Cup champion.
Yeah, well, that's fine for them. What I would say about this Philly game that was rescheduled, remember,
yes,
is the most important thing is they got through it with some pieces not having to play. Marco Farfan didn't play. Facundo didn't play. Illarramendi played 15 minutes. Velasco going again is fine because remember we're trying to build his minutes up. Jesus played, only missed 70 minutes of that game. So you set yourself up for Houston to be able to go with what you perceive as your very best, right?
Yeah.
Farfan will be back. Tafari can go again, no problem. If Alba can go again, that shouldn't be a problem. Ima played a really great game, so great, leave him in there. Or if you really have to, you have Junker ready to replace him if you need him. Facundo and Illarramendi can go. Allen can go again as a young guy, no problem. Jesus ready to go. Bernie might be back, so maybe O'Brien and Bernie. Or no, Paul didn't start either, right? Paul came in at 70, so he played 30 minutes. So Paul and Bernie maybe this weekend. You're looking at, you've lined yourself up. I know it's on the road, but it's your arch rival and it's a conference game, right? So this is a big one. You got 4 games left. And the extra game didn't crush you. You actually got through it and set yourself up pretty well for the stretch run. So, and got a point out of it.
Yeah, and whether we like it or not, Houston is really good right now.
They are good.
They're really, really good.
Maybe they'll have a celebratory hangover and let off a little bit because they think they're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, full credit. They now have to fix their attendance issues and all of that stuff, but their on-field product is really entertaining. They're playing... and the bits and pieces that I have seen Houston play, I would say they are not a boring club. They are fun to watch. Hector Hernandez is playing out of his mind, and they got a bunch of other little pieces in there that are going well. And full credit, Ben's doing a good job down there.
Coco Carrasquilla is a baller, dude. That guy's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that their owner said they've been irrelevant for a decade. That was fun.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that interview with that guy this week. I can't remember what it was in, but it was I thought he was very honest and fair and admitted we've got the best stadium location of anybody in the league. And
it's
there's
a great location.
That's a stupidly amazing location. But it's never about location. It's about product, Buzz. We know that.
Yeah, dude, I've gone to games there and gone down to that area and gone to a bar or a restaurant and then walked over to the game. It's phenomenal. I'm jealous of that location. I wish we had something nearly that cool. I mean, granted, I think over time, Frisco continues to improve. I get it. It's getting better. But it does not have that vibe that Houston has around it. It's different. That Houston thing feels like the stadium's a Deep Ellum. To me,
it is.
I think is cool.
It's essentially in where it is would be Deep Ellum to Dallas. Yeah. It's a cool Lodo, I think is what it's called. But
okay, I'll take your word for that.
I think that's what that part of town is called Lodo. But it'll be interesting. I think Saturday is a big one to watch. I'm sure there's a big contingent of fans that are going down to the game. Did the club put anything together? Do you know?
I believe they have some buses going down, I think. I don't know how involved the club is, but I know there are some buses. Look, it's a rivalry game. All bets are out the window. They just won a cup. Maybe they're in a hangover. You set yourself up as best you can with your rotation. And then behind that, you have Colorado at home. That's a rest game, right? So that's nice. Then you get Lucci at home here, so everybody will be up for that one. And then you got to go to L.A. So you got about as 4 as you can really ask for, honestly, at this point. You got to take care of business, but it's about with the Colorado game in there at home and San Jose being here at home. That's pretty good, man. Honestly.
Now, Buzz, this is going to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your skirt and I'm over-celebrating you, but I just want to make sure everybody recognizes the fact that Buzz Carrick is not just the original. He is a national treasure in Major League Soccer because on Sunday afternoon, when his Dallas Cowboys are playing an important game of National League football, Buzz is not at home watching the Cowboys. No, he is at Choctaw Stadium, the baseball park converted into an XFL/soccer facility, watching North Texas play its final game of the season. That, my friends, is dedication above and beyond what anybody else at any level of media coverage is doing in these United States. So, Buzz, take it away with your North Texas Soccer Club report, please, sir.
It was 100 degrees, too.
Oh, my God. You are such a sicko.
You know why that happened? Is because I got the leaked NFL script and for the weekend. I knew the Cowboys were going down. No.
Yes, you definitely ended up in a way better sports experience than the rest of us.
Well, let's just give the North Texas season ended, and I did my bit on who they're going to keep and get rid of, or I think they should keep and get rid of. Strangely, there's a lot more keeps this year than normal because they signed like 5 or 6 kids right towards the end of the season that are really more for next year. So the usual 5 that you're going to keep is now going to be more like 10, which is kind of weird. And then the other side of it is the question is the coach, because they fired Javier Cano, who I'm starting to hear some funny stories about, but not in a really negative way.
Can
but in a way.
Can we share the one story that we heard?
No.
Oh,
but
God,
it's not like the Pamadou Ka stories, but it's like it's different than that. But
yes, it's such a ridiculous story.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I think I can tell is that there was a little bit of a disconnect, I think, between the kind of things they were practicing and then what would be happening when they would get to games. And that's the idea that he was basically telling them, like, hey, go out there and have fun. And it's like, well, why did we practice all that stuff then if we're just going to be like, go out there and have fun? So for whatever the reason, the performance is not great. So they changed the coach and John Gall takes over. And so the question is he going to be kept? And I don't know why he won't be, because he rallied pretty well, beat a couple of rivals, had a 4-2-3 record, I think it was. So it won't shock me if he keeps the thing. And I don't know there's really much to say about North Texas this season, except that the foreign players were all terrible. The coaching situation wasn't great, but not in a Pamadou Ka kind of way, just in a in over his head kind of way, I think.
Is there anybody playing for North Texas that has any shot at making it on the senior team?
Yeah, Hope Kudzo Aveyu will be signed this next year.
Okay.
He's the kid from is it Gambia? They spotted him at the Dallas Cup playing for one of the charity sort of teams. Like the ones that fund these clubs in somewhere in Africa, and they bring over all these teenagers, and they spotted him and they actually invited him and 2 other guys FC Dallas did to stay for like a whole year, training with FC Dallas or North Texas or the academy or whatever. And then when COVID hit, they all had to go home, but they knew they were going to bring Hope back, and the minute he turned 18, they signed him to a really long North Texas deal. And he's just finished, I think, basically his 3rd season effectively, or maybe it's only his 2nd. I think it's only his 2nd. Maybe it's his 3rd. Anyway, he's been really good this year and is now to a point where I think it's time to sign him for the first team. And there's some other guys that maybe are on track down the line, but a couple of their best players are like 16 years old. Carl Sante, as their 6th, is the guy who gets called up for Haiti all the time. He needs to make another step before he's going to be an MLS capable player. I'm not sure he's got it in him, but we'll see. As always, there's some diamonds in there that still need polishing that could turn into a Bernie. I think Hope's pretty good. He's a left winger, but he's not like Bernie. He's not a vertical left winger. He's like Velasco. He's a false wing. He plays more like a 10 sometimes, ball handling, smart, nifty, really, really tactically good. I think he's got a pretty good shot to be the guy they signed this year from there.
Okay. Overall, the season...
Well, it's the first time they missed the playoffs. And again, I think it's a combination of the coaching and the failure of the foreign guys that they tried. There's one thing to say, I've signed a foreign player that I don't think is going to be MLS capable. It's another thing to sign a player that is outright awful and it is making the North Texas level team just terrible. They only had one guy that was worth playing at all that was a foreign player. And he's fine. He's okay. He plays most of their games, but he's not going to be a Major League Soccer player. So he's actually a funny case study in a way of he was Brazil's captain when they won the U17 World Cup. And now he's 19 or 20 or whatever it is. And he's got no shot to be a pro, basically. Not at an MLS level. He's guy's a world champion. It's like, what do you got? Nothing.
So, I was trying to figure out if I would recognize Hope. but I went to the North Texas Soccer website and looked up the roster. They don't even have their photos.
Well,
They've got the empty silhouettes where there's supposed to be a photo. They don't even go to the hassle of putting their photo in the roster.
well, let me just say that MLS Next Pro media is like one person for the whole league, so it's not really
Really?
surprising. But if you go to like the fourth article down on Third Degree, the headline picture is Hope pointing at the camera.
Okay.
So you can see what it looks like.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Of
Excellent
course,
player.
Third Degree.
Yeah. .net. Yeah, he's a good player. I think he'll be on the FC Dallas roster next year. That's my prediction.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then here on the world famous run sheet written in red crayon, it says Buzz has a local kid story.
Yes. There's the first thing is I have to tell you about a player in the FC
Is
Dallas.
this a feel good story you're going to
Yeah.
make me cry?
No, it's a good one. I think
Okay.
it's a feel good story.
All right.
So there's a kid in the FC Dallas Academy. His name is Caleb Swan. Do you know that name?
Yes, I
mentioned
do.
him.
Yes,
Yeah,
you-
really, really good player. He's high on my list of potential future pro players. His sister is named Caroline Swan. And the reason I bring her up is that she's a U14-ish, I think, and she's been in some youth national team pools. I bring it up because she plays in ECNL, which is the top girls league here, except that she doesn't. She plays for a boys ECNL team, and she starts. She's one of their best players on a U14, U15-ish boys, which is ECNL, which is the second tier here in town. I think it's BVB is who she plays for, I think. But, listen, we're talking about a younger kid still. But to be good enough for a young lady to play on a boys team as we're getting into that 14, 15-year-old category is amazing. And not like she's on the roster and sits there. No, she's one of their key players and frequent starter for that team.
Where does she play? Is she a midfielder?
She's a midfielder, I believe. But she scores a lot of goals out of midfield, gets forward and bangs, shoots from range. She apparently can cut really well and doesn't have any problem at all playing against boys. And that's amazing. So it's just a name to watch out for, I think, if you're talking about young ladies in this market that can play. And, and maybe there's other women that can do that, but they usually don't. It's pretty rare. I don't know if I've ever heard of it before. And I think it's remarkable. And I just wanted to bring it up because shout out to her because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is a great story. Yeah. Caroline Swan.
Caroline Swan, yeah.
Excellent. That was a feel-good story, Buzz.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me some sad story.
No, she's very highly regarded. She's highly ranked among the players in her age bracket in Texas.
It's got to be some weird scouting video. You're sending out your video to all these colleges for a scholarship, and people are like, wait a second, why is this a boys' game?
Yeah. I mean, amazing.
It's going to
right?
confuse. Some college scout's going to go, wait, I got the wrong tape, and just throw it away without watching it, thinking they got sent the wrong video because she's playing all boys.
Yeah.
It's funny in my head.
It's crazy, yeah.
All right, so Buzz, they sit in 9th place. They're now up to 40 points, plus or minus a couple points of the teams above them, the teams below them. Vancouver, who was another team with a lot of games in hand, won tonight. I believe that they won tonight. They were playing, so it's going to be a race, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. It looks like Vancouver's playing Colorado right now, so it's not over. It's 1-1.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it 1-1? It was 1-0 when I saw it. I thought it was late in the game.
Got the little red dot. Yeah, again, they still got one more game in hand on almost everybody around them. But you're looking at, remember, 4th place Houston, 43 points, all the way down to Dallas, 40 points. That's 6 positions for 3 points.
Difference. Yeah, you beat Houston on Saturday, and now you're 1 point behind. No, you're tied with them.
You're tied with them.
Yeah.
So, we talk about Houston's really good and having this great season. They're 1 win better than Dallas, and Dallas has a game in hand. No, they're even games on Houston. Sorry. So they're 1 win better than Dallas, right? Even Seattle in 3rd place on 45 points. Well, that's a game and a half win better, right? I mean, it's like the West is so tight. LAFC 45, Dallas in 2nd place, Dallas 40 in 9th place.
Yeah. 5
points, 2nd to 9. Include Kansas City in 10th, and it's 7 points, 2nd to 10th. Granted, at some point it gets ridiculous, but literally 5 points over eight places in the standings. So it's like so and so's really good, so and so's really bad. Man, they're all the same. Everybody not named St. Louis down to everybody not named Colorado is. There's a really, really good team and a really, really bad team in the West. Everybody else is, even LA on 34, same thing. They might look at Dallas and say, man, you're just 2 wins better than us, right? Especially they're getting better. Puig is amazing. It is what it is. The West is a big car wash of meh and all these teams, to be honest with you. And if you can be one that can grind out a couple of points, you do that nice little graphic that shows the games people everybody has left. I'd put Dallas's chances up against anybody's with the schedule they have. They got to do it. Got to win it out. Jesus is going to carry this team as far as they'll go. Alan Velasco birth happening is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Houston won that game 2-1, by the way. They are the Open Cup champs, and the Campeones Cup is tonight.
Oh, Colorado just scored.
So they're now Vancouver's now losing 2-1?
Yeah, losing 2-1.
Wow. Well, suddenly now that game next Wednesday doesn't feel like such a walk in the park now, does it, Buzz?
No, but it should be. Colorado, that just means Vancouver's only 1 point ahead of you. Right. In terms of the thing. Like you can look at the bottom. Honestly, anybody probably from Houston on down could miss the playoffs easily. If you're,
for sure. Yeah.
43 to 38 is not.
You go flat these last 4 games or 3 games or whatever you got left. Absolutely.
Anybody from 4 down that loses out, like Seattle at 45, LA at 45, they lose out, they're probably still safe because of the number of teams that would have to pass them. But anybody that's like, I don't know, 4 or 5, whatever, 6 through 9, if you lose out, you're going to miss. You got to perform no matter who you are at this point. And so it's really just wide open. Take care of your business. You'll be fine.
All right, Buzz. Well, I think we've covered it pretty good tonight, as best I think we can. And
by the way, I should just one tiny correction. Caroline Swan plays for DKSC. That's who she plays for. That's my bad. So that's
the
even
boys team, not the
boys
girls team.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's even a funny UCNL boys Texans players to watch list that's got her name on it. That's funny.
DKSC, they don't call them defeaters anymore. They rename the girls team from defeaters to DKSC.
Yeah,
right?
The whole thing's just called DKSC. As far as I know, now I will freely admit I'm not super dialed in on the girls' side of UCNL, but I think the whole club is just DK, Defeaters Kicks Soccer Club. Everyone just calls it DKSC.
Okay.
Because the Kicks was a boy side only and Defeaters was a girl side only. They just merged them together under this banner name and wear the same colors. And they have a nice little setup. They've got a little academy attached to that, like for school and stuff. They have a nice program. Right. It's a good club. Rising club. They'll be better than Texans really quickly if they're not already, in my opinion. And probably Solar, too, because of the academy part they're running, which is for education purposes.
Excellent stuff.
Third Degree, the podcast, has been brought to you by Soccer90.com. Soccer90.com is your ultimate destination for FC Dallas North Texas Soccer Club and European club gear. Right now, it's the North Texas Soccer Club end of season sale. You can get 50% off all that awesome gear, unique stuff, a lot more rare. No one's going to have that. Hurry while supplies last. All Third Degree listeners get 20% off your order when you use the code Third Degree at checkout. Some exclusions do apply.
Well, very good, Buzz. I appreciate it. And
sure, man.
Well, a big game. Are you going down for the game in Houston?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. My car should be out of the shop soon, so we'll see. I don't think I'll have it back in time to.
You should take the loaner. You should take the rental car since you don't.
No,
you not have to put the miles on.
I'm working this weekend, Saturday and Sunday both, so that's out.
Oh, okay.
But I'll be at the Colorado game, I think. I'm sure.
All right. Well, kick ass. Well, thank you, Buzz. Your expertise is wonderful.
Anytime.
And thank you, FC Dallas Curious fan. We will speak to you next week on another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
I don't know what to say.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.